Hi, I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope. If you don't mind, please hit like, subscribe. That really help enormously. Enormously? Did I say that right? Hey, let's talk about Alice Springs. I think it's just it's a sample of what's going on throughout Greater Australia at the moment. There seems to be unprecedented amounts of violence going on. Not just and there's lots of reporting about domestic violence around the whole country at the moment. We've seen a massive brawl being filmed uh, in Bankstown, Western Sydney, between women and teenage boys. And that's not the only thing. There's just the amount of violence around the whole nation at the moment, unprecedented. Personally, I believe that there are very obvious spiritual reasons because of this. I think the Bible explains it well, but I want to really discuss first off what's happening in Alice Springs. Obviously, we've seen a lot of violence there. There's a lot of issues with alcohol consumption, a lot of issues with young people, teenagers, just young people in general, just running riot on the streets. So we've seen the community gather together, a meeting of roughly 3,000 people, which is approximately 10% of the town's population, gather together. They wanted, for one, they want to take the government to task. They want to actually sue the government for I think it's just over $1 billion, because they believe that the government has failed in what they should be doing in the action that they've taken. So we've seen this town meeting go on, this council meeting, and we've seen Senator Jacinta Price. I believe she's a very good, very intelligent Indigenous senator from the Northern Territory. She was speaking about it, and we saw this meeting. It was interrupted by progressives who, quite frankly, the progressives don't have anything to offer. We see people who live in the community. They are fighting for their community. Okay, they're not racists because they're concerned about their businesses, about their livelihoods, about their own safety. They're not rednecks. They're people who are concerned about the well-being of their loved ones, their businesses, the people who love their community. And yet we see these progressives come. They disrupted the meeting, calling everyone rednecks, Nazis, this kind of stupid propaganda. And in all reality, it seems like they don't understand what a fascist is, really. They don't really understand. I think they ignore history. Anyway, I'm going to show you the video. This is Jacinta Price talking on Sky News, discussing what happened with this meeting and what they're trying to achieve, and also these progressives who interrupted the meeting.
And Jacinta, the word voice is very fashionable these days right now about some of these issues, but I have heard that hundreds of locals attended a community meeting to make their voices heard about how the town needs help. Tell us about this community meeting and what happened and what came out of that. And what are the voices there saying to Anthony Albanese, with or without a voice to Parliament?
Well, so I attended this rally yesterday. I got there and it was already full. There were about 3,000 locals who showed up. It's probably the biggest community meeting I think ever called. And so members of the community were beside themselves. They're wanting their community to be brought back under control, to be brought back to its former glory. Long-term residents, Indigenous, non-Indigenous, because that's what we are here in Alice Springs, came together. Ultimately, they've decided that they are wanting to bring a class action against the Northern Territory government for their failure to relieve us of crime and all the issues that we're currently faced with. I think this will be the beginning of probably many more possible meetings to come. I know that there are a lot of residents who felt like it should have gone longer, but it was disrupted by a small group of progressive individuals who wanted to go around calling everyone rednecks and Nazis, which is utter nonsense. The majority of them themselves white people, with local residents, long-term Indigenous residents, turning around and telling them to rack off, and how dare they bring that nonsense to.
So that was Jacinta Price like I said, these progressives that come along, we've seen that, we've seen this virus of progressiveness spreading across the whole world. They are anti-God, anti-family. They're usually very, very pro rainbow mafia people, very progressive, the kind of people that think, you can just do whatever you want, just, love and live and let love, whatever. And don't, and try and supposedly stand up for old cultural beliefs. They want to get behind old cultural wisdom. I'll tell you what, but there is no wisdom in letting young people drink alcohol, exorbitant amounts of alcohol, and then just run riot on the streets. There is no wisdom in letting adults just drink exorbitant amounts of alcohol, just killing themselves, basically. There's no wisdom in that. But we have a nation, we have these progressives that push God aside, push any biblical teaching. They continue to push this propaganda that, we're still living under some kind of colonial, tyrannical system. So fine, this nation the nation of Australia might have started what we know now as Australia, might have started under colonialism. But people here, okay, have benefited from the past hurts, from what happened in the past. We're living in a good society now. Just because you get together and you want to fix your nation, you want to stop the violence on the streets, does not make you a racist, does not make you a Nazi. These progressives have no flipping idea what they're talking about. They are the problem. They don't want to hold people accountable because they don't want to be held accountable. Like I said, they push God aside, they push all biblical teaching aside. They don't want, they reject God. And this is what the God of the Bible talks about in Romans 1, were people who are given over to a debased mind because they deny God, they deny the truth of God. They want to break down the family system that was described in the Bible. And they want to embrace, tell us that, a family can be, dad and dad, mum and mum who thinks he's a dad, she's a dad who thinks he's a woman, and then they can raise children and be this weird rainbow family, and that people can change whatever sex. This is the kind of family they want us to embrace. And this is why we see our nation, I believe, my opinion, you don't have to agree with me, and I'm sure there's people going to be there telling me they don't agree with me at all. And I know I always get people say, hey, they don't like it when I bring up biblical things, topics. But this is why our nation is seeing such an exponential rise in violence, because we have a nation that denies God, pushes God aside, does not want to hold on to any kind of biblical teaching, continues to push a propaganda of a false history. This is what happens. Our nation is hurtling towards a violent future. It's just going to get worse. Let me know what you think. I wish these progressives would shut up, quite frankly, but I don't think they will. But this is what happens to a nation under judgment because it denies God, worships the created rather than the creator. That's my opinion. Please let me know what you think. I'm Jay Fallon. Thank you for listening to The Slippery Slope.